After listening to this module, you will be able to understand some important social action movements, will be able to understand the history and philosophy of Seva, will be able to understand the working and membership of Seva, you will be able to understand the evolution of NBA, Narmada Bachao Andolan, and you will be able to understand the working and focus of National Alliance for People's Movement. Social action movements, some important social action movements, that is the Self-Employed Women's Association Seva, Narmada Bachao Andolan NBA, National Alliance for People's Movement. The Self-Employed Women's Association Seva. The dawn of Seva in 1920, inspired by Gandhi, Anusuya Ben Sarabhai, the daughter of a textile mill owner, started a union of textile workers called Textile Labour Association in Ahmedabad city, Western India. For the next 60 years, the textile industry, including the Textile Labour Association TLA and its institutional counterpart Ahmedabad Mill Owners Association AMA, dominated the economic and political landscape of Ahmedabad. In 1955, a young woman lawyer named Ila Bhatt, people called her Ila Ben Bhatt, joined the TLA in 1968 after working more than a decade on labour issues. She asked head of the women's wing of TLA to provide training and welfare to the wives of textile mill workers. But in 1971, a small group of migrant women cart pullers in the wholesale cloth market of Ahmedabad approached the women's wing to ask whether the TLA might be able to help them to find housing. Ila Bhatt accompanied the women to the wholesale cloth market, where she met another group of women who were working as head loaders, carrying loads of cloth to the wholesale market. The head loaders described to Ila Bhatt their work, including their low and erratic wages, etc. Under the auspices of women's wing of the TLA, Ila Bhatt decided to organize a public meeting for the head loaders to discuss their problems. The women agreed to organize themselves into a group and each paid 25 paisa, quarter of a rupee, as a membership fees. Following the meeting, Ila Bhatt wrote an article for a local newspaper detailing the problems of the head loaders. The merchants claimed that they treated the head loaders fairly. The TLA Women's Wing responded by reprinting the merchants' claim of fair treatment on card that they distributed to the head loaders to use to hold the merchants accountable, thus turning the merchants' rebuttal to the head loaders' advantage. Word of the head loaders' moral victory spread quickly. Soon a group of used clothing dealers approached the women's wing of the TLA with their complaints, and again Ila Bhatt called a meeting to which 100 used garment dealers and other women came. During that meeting, a woman from the crowd suggested for an association of their own. Thus, on the appeal from the women and at the initiative of Ila Bhatt and the TLA Women's Wing, the Self-Employed Women's Association Seva was born on 3rd December 1971. The women felt that as workers' association, Seva should establish itself as trade union, but the Labour Department refused to register Seva because they felt that since there was no recognized employer, they argued that the union was not necessarily against an employer but was for the unity of the workers. Finally, Seva was registered as a trade union in 1972 April. By 1975, the membership in the Seva union had grown to 2,750 women from 15 trade groups, of which the largest was that of street vendors, followed by head loaders, garment makers, used clothing dealers and beedi rollers. In 1975, Seva also began organizing agricultural labours in several villages of Ahmedabad district and later expanded it its rural operations in the entire state of Gujarat. It was in early 1980s that Seva began to significantly expand its operations outside Gujarat. By end of 2008, there were about 9,66,139 Seva members all over India and 5,19,309 in Gujarat alone. So till now, few points that we need to remember are: Seva is a trade union registered in 1972. It is an organization of poor, self-employed women workers who do not obtain regular salaried employment with welfare benefits like workers in the organized sector. They are the unprotected labor force of our country, which is more than 94% of the unorganized sector. Its main goals are to organize women workers for full employment, that is, where workers obtain work security, income security, food security and social security. Seva is both an organization as well as a movement. Today, Seva has 7 lakh members located in 7 states of India. In 14 districts of Gujarat alone, Seva has reached out to around 5 lakh members in both rural and urban areas. Gandhian linkage to Seva. As its overarching goal, Seva is committed to the pursuits of what Gandhi called India's second freedom, that is economic freedom or freedom from poverty and hunger. After the first freedom, political freedom attained in 1947, the founding fathers of modern India disregarded Gandhi's notion that economic freedom should be based on agriculture and small-scale industry. But 25 years later, Ila Bhatt adopted Gandhi's notion of economic self-reliance as a base of Seva's work. In Seva's interpretation of Gandhi, the 2 key components of economic freedom are full employment and self-reliance. Seva provided employment at 2 levels. One, at the household level, second, at individual level, and that assures security of income, food and social security and self-reliance. In a holistic sense, it refers to economic and financial social self-sufficiency as well as to control and autonomy of workers. Moreover, Seva believes that collective self-reliance is more important than individual self-reliance of its members. Seva has translated its Gandhian vision and values into concrete operational goals and strategies. It has done so through ongoing consultations and deliberations with its women members and introduced integrated strategy of what is called struggle and development. That is union-style collective bargaining and campaigns to raise awareness and demands for change, and development interventions to promote alternative economic opportunities and build assets. To promote this strategy, Seva engages in organization, capacity building, asset building and empowerment. The key operational framework guiding Seva's work is what it calls the 11 points. Developed and distilled by Seva, organizers and members over the years, these 11 points are valued as ends in themselves as well as means to overarching goals of full employment and self-reliance. So till now, we have few points to remember. Seva believes in Gandhian philosophy of Satya, that is truth, Ahimsa, non-violence, and Sarvadharma, integration of all faiths and all religions, and Khadi, that is preparation of local employment and self-reliance. Seva interventions and institutions. In the pursuit of its goal, Seva offers its members a range of organizing strategies and development services. First, as a trade union, Seva offers all its members some combination of following tailored to their main occupation or trade. Organization into trade groups or cooperatives and producer groups. Local leadership development, opportunities and training to become local leaders. Collective bargaining through trade-wise or issue-based. Policy advocacy, trade-wise or issue-based organizing is the central strategy of Seva and takes several forms. In addition to organizing its members by trade into its union, Seva helps its members to form cooperatives and other local associations. All members of Seva belong to a relevant trade group and are voting members of the Seva Union. Many also belong to one or more membership-based organizations, cooperatives, producer groups, and saving and credit groups. All members of these primary organizations are represented through elected leaders in the governing structure of Seva Union. Two types of these primary organizations, cooperative and rural group associations, are also federated into separate state-wise organizations. In addition, Seva offers the following development services to all interested members on an ongoing basis: financial services like savings, loans and insurance, social services, health, child care and education including adult literacy, infrastructure services like housing plus water, sanitation, electricity and transport in the remote areas, capacity building programs including training and technical skills, leadership and other skills. Also, its members who are self-employed, working either on their own or in groups in handicraft production, agriculture production, animal husbandry, salt production and other productive activities, Seva offers enterprise development services like skill training and product development, marketing services like local, state, national and export marketing services. While most of these services are offered on an ongoing basis to as many members of Seva as possible, some services are targeted to specific groups of Seva members. For instance, Seva joined a public-private partnership scheme to provide slum infrastructures services to some of its urban members in designated projects slums. And Seva has collaborated with government schemes to provide water resources in its rural members in designated projects sites and to organize rural producers into local producer groups under the specific government schemes. Over the years, it provides various services and make these various interventions. Seva has built sisterhood institutions as follows: Seva Union, Seva Shri Mahila Seva Sangh, which recruits and organizes Seva's urban and rural membership and organizes campaigns around issues of concern to its members. Seva Bank, Shri Mahila Seva Sehkari Bank Limited. It provides financial services including loans and savings. Seva Cooperative Federation, Gujarat Mahila Cooperative Federation. It organizes Seva's membership into several types of cooperative and provide support services to these cooperatives. Seva District Associations provide services to Seva, organized village groups and link members to other units within Seva for other services. Seva Marketing, Gram Mahila Haat, Kutch Craft Association and Seva Trade Facilitation Center. It helps cooperatives or associations of women producers to reach local, domestic and international markets. Seva Social Security provides health and child care services and oversees Seva Vimo. Seva Vimo provides insurance services. Seva Housing, Gujarat Mahila Housing, Seva Trust provides housing services. Seva Academy provides research, training and communication services. The first four, the Union Bank, Cooperative Federation and District Association, are membership-based organizations governed by elected representatives of Seva members. Organizing strategies offered to Seva's members. Seva membership. Any self-employed women in India who is 15 years or older is eligible to become a member of Seva. In Seva's use of term self-employed refers to all economically active persons who are not in formal salaried jobs. The members of the Seva are generally very poor. Available evidence suggests that half of the Seva's urban members live in households where income per capita is below the US $1 a day poverty line. Agency through organization. Organizing and capacity building provides the essential foundation of Seva. Organized local groups and trained local leaders for all that Seva does. As its ongoing strategy, Seva recruits new members, organizes them to local groups and convenes regular local groups meetings to identify needs as well as strategies to help needs. In this process, local grassroots leaders emerge. These leaders are trained and deployed as member of spearhead team or as paraprofessionals to help carry out Seva activities, while others are elected to serve as representatives of the journal membership of the governing bodies of the union members, cooperative federation, district association and other member-based organizations of Seva. Seva's stepwise organizing process is: Step 1. Recruiting and mobilizing members to build awareness and solidarity, to identify needs, constraints and opportunities and to undertake activities. Step 2. Organizing members into one or more local primary groups, trade groups, cooperatives, producer groups, savings and credit groups, village associations, campaign committee. Step 3. Promoting and building leadership that emerges out of these local organizations. Step 4. Training and deploying leaders to help to implement Seva activities through decentralized management systems as members of local spearhead teams who implement projects and undertake campaigns, or as paraprofessionals who provide technical services. Step 5. Convening elections of the representatives from among the leaders to serve on the executive committee of the Seva Union, the Seva Bank, the Gujarat Mahila Cooperative Federation, the District Association and other member-based organizations in Seva family. While all of Seva's members belong to the Seva Union, many of them also belong to other membership-based organizations established by Seva. Governance of Seva Union. Seva Union is the mother institution. It established as a trade union in 1972. Seva is registered under the Indian Trade Union Act of 1926. Union members pay an annual membership fee 5 rupees and are organized into various trade groups. An additional fee is levied on the trade groups which have benefited from struggle supported by Seva. 3 tiers of elected representatives govern the union: trade committees, trade council and executive committee. Every 3 years, the members of each trade group elect representatives to trade committees called Dhanda Samitis. The other trade committees elect their representatives called Pratinidhis to the Central Trade Council, and the Trade Council elects an executive committee of 25 members who in turn elect the office bearers of the union. The executive committee also includes 5 elected Seva organizers as honorary members, one of whom serves as general secretary or 2 of whom as secretaries. Since 1981, the president of Seva Union has been elected from the trade group with the largest membership. The trade committees meet once in a month to discuss the problems faced by women in their respective trades and to plan strategies to deal with these problems. They serve as the nerve center of Seva, sending out signals as to what is happening locally and what the organizations need to do. The union hires paid organizers for each trade group who serve as member secretaries of their representative trade committees. In addition to or instead of serving as elected representatives in the governance structure of Seva, local leaders are also recruited and specially trained to help Seva implement its various activities. Local spearhead team comprising of 4 local leaders and 1 Seva organizer manages every activity or the program of Seva. Local leaders who have worked with Seva for some time are trained to become spearhead leaders. Advocacy of Seva. Informed by members and through the organized strength of its members, Seva pushes for structural change in the wider environment. Some of these structural changes are related to the informal economy as a whole, such as legal recognition of informal economy, legal recognition of Seva as trade union, and representation of informal workers in mainstream institutions as the local, state, national and international institutions. Other structural changes related to specific trade groups such as increased wages or piece rates, workers' benefit and social protection measures, licenses to buy and sell goods, access to new and improved markets. In addition, some of these relate to specific issues of concern of Seva members such as housing, infrastructure services like water, electricity and transport, land and other natural resources. In shaping the wider policy environment, Seva also seeks to change public understanding and appreciation of working poor women and their work, thereby to change the values, norms and practice within the society. In Seva's work, the wider environment is seen to include policies, institutions and norms. A global movement from local to national union. During the 1970s and 1980s, Seva's membership grew slowly but steadily from just under 1,948 in 1977 to nearly 15,144 members in 1987. Although Seva began organizing rural women in a limited scale, from Ahmedabad in the mid-70s, it established a full-fledged file-based rural wing only in 1989. Since then, their rural and urban membership has grown dramatically and 9,66,139 in 2008. In the early 1980s, Seva began expanding the scope of its operations in other states of India. Established in 1982, Seva Bharat, literally Seva India, is a registered federation of Seva organizations nationwide. With support and guidance of Seva Bharat, Seva organizations are started in different states like Bihar, Murshidabad, Delhi, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala and Dehradun. Given the numerical size and geographical spread of its membership, representing women workers all over India, Seva is now an officially recognized national trade union federation. In 2006, Seva became a founding member of New International Trade Union Confederation ITUC, ITEC. From a union to a movement, over the past 2 decades, an international movement has emerged in support of the working poor, especially women in informal economy. During the 1980s, Seva began establishing linkages with membership-based organization of home-based workers and street vendors and NGOs working with these groups of workers. In the mid-1990s, at 2 separate meetings in Europe, these organizations under Seva's leadership came together to form 2 international alliances, one for organizations of home-based workers and other for organizations of street vendors. From its inception, the Alliance of Home-Based Workers organizations was centrally involved in the campaigns to pass an International Labour Organization ILO convention at home work. In 1995, Seva organized a meeting at the Rockefeller Foundation Study and Confederation Center in Bellegio, Italy, of representatives of the street vendors organizations from a dozen cities around the world, as well as activists and lawyers working with street vendor organizations. At that meeting, the participants drafted the Bellegio International Declaration of Street Vendors, which calls for the action at 4 levels: by individual traders, by traders association, by city governments and by international organizations including United Nations, ILO and the World Bank. The participants also called for the establishment of an international network of street vendor organizations to be called StreetNet. Together, these organizations have helped foster a global movement of workers in informal economy that now includes local trade union and other membership based organizations of informal workers, national and global trade union federations that have begun organizing informal workers, several national federation workers, education associations, IFWEA, 8 national and 2 regional HomeNet, StreetNet, International and Viago network. Drawing inspiration and guidance of Seva, this movement continues to identify and network organizations of informal workers and to inform and influence policy debates on the informal economy. The second very important movement, social movement that I am going to discuss today is Narmada Bachao Andolan, shortly called as NBA. Narmada Bachao Andolan, Save the Narmada movement as it is called, a social action movement that arose in response to the building of a World Bank funded dam project along with the Narmada river. The project, which has displaced hundreds and thousands and has imposed stunning environmental costs without reaping the promised benefits of modernization, has been the source of constant controversy. The Narmada basin covers an area of 94,500 square kilometers between the Vindhya and Satpura ranges of central India. Narmada Valley Development Project NVDP, an ambitious project that seeks to harness the river Narmada that follows through the 3 states of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat, which envisages that 30 big dams, 135 medium dams and 3,000 small dams will be constructed on Narmada river and its 41 tributaries. More than 22 million people live in the valley and several tribal groups, particularly Bhils and Gonds. The project is estimated to affect over 2.5 lakhs of people. The Sardar Sarovar project SSP and the Narmada Sagar project NSP are the 2 biggest dams to be constructed on Narmada river, and the SSP alone will submerge 245 villages, 19 in Gujarat, 33 in Maharashtra and 193 in Madhya Pradesh. Thus, these 2 projects are controversial to their large scale displacement and the problems of rehabilitation. This has resulted in emergence of Narmada Bachao Andolan NBA movement. The movement has drawn its multiplicity of discourses for protests such as displacement, risks and resettlement provisions, environmental impact and sustainability issues, financial implications of the project, forceful eviction and violation of civil liberties, issues pertaining to river valley planning and management, implications of Western growth model and alternative development and appropriate technology, among many others. They used various tools of protest such as Satyagraha, Jal Samarpan, sacrificing drowning in the rivers, Rasta Roko, road blockage at strategic points, Gaon Bandi, refusing the entry of government officials into the villages, demonstrations and rallies, hunger strikes and blockage of projects. It is 25 years since Narmada Bachao Andolan came into existence as a challenging response by the Adivasis, farmers and other nature-based communities of the Narmada Valley against large-scale displacement, environmental degradation, rampant corruption and non-participatory unplanned development through large dams and canals that have put the lives of lakhs of people at stake. The movement has traversed a long journey over the past 2.5 decades through various phases of struggle and dialogue, facing repression, undertaking legal action, proposing and promoting reconstructive work. Many have been witness to the turns and twists in this peaceful people's struggle, asserting the right to life and livelihood as the right to true and sustainable development with dignity. Through its persistent struggle, from the streets to the courts, people have exposed the fake claims of rehabilitation, with rampant corruption and utter non-compliance of environmental and other laws. As per official estimates itself, the project costs have far outweighed the claimed benefits, with just 10% of the benefit attained and 10 times increase in costs, necessitating a necessary, serious, comprehensive review into the entire project and justifying reports by experts committees that all project work must be halted until full compliance is ensured. Close to 3 decades after it began, Sardar Sarovar today stands as financially unviable, environmentally destructive and socially damaging project, and has just remained a monument of mismanagement for Gujarat and the nation, and a monument of injustice for people of the valley, as it is the case with many other projects implemented across the country. Conclusion. The movement started to save the rights of the indigenous people, but the focus of NBA shifted towards rehabilitation and resettlement. However, still NBA's most prominent victories happened somewhere around 1990s and 1993 with the withdrawal of the World Bank, the Harsud Rally, etc. Its focus has dwindled from the point forward largely because individuals are persuaded that the SSP will proceed with regardless of what, given the India's government conviction to let the SSP, that is Sardar Sarovar project, proceeds. Notwithstanding this, Medha Patekar and the NBA keep on challenging the SSP, that is Sardar Sarovar projects. So, few points now that we can remember after discussing the Narmada Bachao Andolan is: the Narmada Bachao Andolan is one of the most significant protest movements that independent India has ever seen. It started in response to the building of the World Bank funded dam project along with Narmada river in response to the building of World Bank funded dam. During the primary opposition, there was tribal community were affected badly because there was a lack of reservoir. Village community displaced by the indentation of the reservoir. There were no proper arrangements from the government for the people of the community. They also not made any rehabilitation or resettlement of the habitats of that region. The Sardar Sarovar project and Narmada Bachao project are the two biggest dams to be constructed in Narmada river. The leader of the Narmada Bachao Andolan is Medha Patekar, who started the movement against this project. The third movement I would like to discuss here is National Alliance of People's Movement, NAPM. It is a struggle against injustice and discrimination, assertion of rights and reconstruction towards sustainability and self-reliance. National Alliance of People's Movements started as a process in 1992 amidst the impact of Ayodhya incidents and globalization spree, and took a definite shape in 1996 after a long national tour of 15 states by senior activists. It is an alliance of progressive people's organizations and movements who, while retaining their autonomous identities, are working together to bring the struggle for primacy of rights of communities over natural resources, conservation and governance, decentralized democratic development, and towards a just, sustainable and egalitarian society in the true spirit of globalism, and its national office located in New Delhi, India. It stands against corporate globalization, communalism and religious fundamentalism, patriarchy, casteism, untouchability and discrimination of all kinds, and believes that our alliance emerging out of such a process with shared ideology and diverse strategies can give rise to a strong social political force and a national people's movement. NAPM also integrates various civil society organizations and individuals working towards similar goals. NAPM provides a forum for coming together of numerous vibrant strands of ideologies. Its programs actions and conceptualization of development perspectives on emerging paradigm of sustainable development, equity, freedom, justice and peace. NAPM draws its ideas of Gandhi, Ambedkar, Marx, Lohia, Phule, Periyar and others. The focus of NAPM is to develop linkages across the various sections of Dalits and other backward castes, minorities, Adivasis, unprotected workers, labouring poor, as well as sensitive intellectuals and other professionals. NAPM has gained strength and made a significant impact through its allies organizations like fisher workers, farmers, farm labourers and forest workers, dam affected and development reduced displaced, hawkers and construction and domestic workers, and other oppressed women and youth across all classes struggling for annihilation of caste system. The new economic policy, which started in early 1990s, has captured the imagination and practice of all major political parties, national or regional, and a thriving middle class to the detriment of nearly 80% of the toiling masses, the real producers and the backbone of the nation. The dictum of "there is no alternative" continues to dominate, but struggled at various fronts to keep reaffirming the vision and plan for a just, appropriate and sustainable development, and proclaim that another world is possible, and continue to strive towards evaluating spaces, processes and initiative where communities can take the initiative, dictate and control over the natural resources through local to national struggle as an endeavour outside of narrow electoral politics. In the name of development and industrialization, the state continues to bring in new unconstitutional and anti-people enactments and policies like the SEZ Act. NAPM challenges the weak or unorganized Workers Social Security Act, JNN, URM, Nuclear Liability Act and regressive amendments to Urban Land Ceiling Act, Land Acquisition Act and Mining, Labour, Coastal, Urban Development and Environmental laws. All these have together not only led to massive evictions, but exploitation of land, forest, water, minerals, etc., natural resources at the cost of the urban and rural poor, and had serious socio-economic and environmental impacts. The slum dwellers in the dilapidated chawls, fish workers on the coastal region, farmers, Dalits, Adivasis and artisans in the rural and tribal areas, and all the unorganized sector workers are left without space, physical to political. The right to life, livelihood and participation in the development planning process has been denied to all these communities. NAPM demands and struggle for a comprehensive policy which recognizes the access to drinking water, housing, power, education and health of every individual as a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution of India. Striving for a radical change, NAPM works to influence appropriate processes of democratic development planning, choice of technology and justice in the distribution of development benefits. NAPM promotes the use of alternative technology in water, energy, housing, farming and other sectors towards building self-reliant lifestyles and communities. It cares for the environment to protect our livelihoods, climate and future generations. NAPM allies undertake struggle against injustice of all kind, simultaneously engages in constructive thought and work consciously as part of multi-pronged strategy towards its goal of building a more human world for every living being on the planet. NAPM fundamental concerns today are: number one, the controlled growth of obscene wealth on the one hand and the widening disparity, debt, hunger and suicides on the other. Paradigm of market-oriented development induced displacement, privatization and destruction of national and natural resources. Development and economic policy being dictated by the unholy nexus of corporate and investors and the consequent loss of sovereignty of nation and people. The unanimity among mainstream political parties of all hue on economic policy and the absence of real alternative. The abuse of people's mandate by legislations such as SEZ Act, Land Acquisition Act, Nuclear Regulatory Bill, the vicious cycle of state violence countered by militant violence in various parts of the country and consequent shrinking of democratic space. So, to conclude, I would like to say that in the existing political scenario, NAPM has to stand out as a unique force in people's politics. It challenges the present corrupt criminal electoral politics in India and strives for electoral reforms. The total surrender of the statutory system to global powers and divisive agenda is seen by NAPM as a blow to the democracy and sovereignty of our nation. It is imperative that one should try bring about the people's sovereignty. One must fight the global imperialism and religious fundamentalism as a dual enemy that attacks people's rights to life and livelihood. The alternative paradigm NAPM propagates is based on the vision of equity, simplicity and self-reliance. The process of bringing together movements and evolution into a national movement continues unabated through national campaign like Desh Bachao, Desh Banao, Save the Nation, Build the Nation, etc. NAPM continues to join hands with movements and sectoral alliances beyond the fold of NAPM and take forward the struggle against state violence unleashed directly on the form of police repression through doctrine laws like AF, SPA, UAPA, etc. or more specifically through orientation green hunt or indirectly through various structural and systemic neoliberal policies. NAPM appeals to all like-minded organizations and concerned people to join their struggle, striving for a world of equity, peace and justice, informed by the vision of the casteless, feminist and participatory eco-socialism, and invite all actively participate in this nation-building efforts. So, 2 points to remember regarding NAPM can be: in 1992, National Alliance of People's Movement got started. It is a people's organization and movements who are working together over natural resources, conservation and governance, decentralized democratic development. The focus of NAPM is to develop linkages across the various sections of Dalits and other backward caste, minorities, Adivasis, unprotected workers, laboring poor, as well as sensitive, intellectual and other professionals. It stands against corporate globalization, communalism and religious fundamentalism, patriarchy, casteism, untouchability and discrimination.